been great.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. So here we're going to talk about why pickup lines need to be used more. So if we start off with dictionary.com's slang dictionary, they talk about pickup lines. And I feel like the most important part of this definition is the part where it talks about it being a planned effort that doesn't usually work. But why does it not usually work? For all the girls in the room, how many of you have looked like this picture, rejecting someone who has done a poor effort in doing their greatest attempt to get a hold of a date with you? Anyone? Yeah, Zoe? And for all the guys, how many of you have ended up like him, rejected and having to go home sad? That's a solid representation. So you don't want to resort to listening to a YouTube video like this, talking about feeling rejection, because do you really want to hear from these two howcast people about just making yourself better and trying to find the positives, when you can actually succeed and get that date? So Jessica Schrader, in The Science of Pickup Lines, talks about how pickup lines are effective when they talk about the culture, the wealth, and the generosity of the human being. So why not be like Tony Stark and be the guy with all of the money and the nice guy who gets that date? So Science Direct has an article talking about how to be the guy, and there's different types of pickup lines detailed throughout this entire article, talking about the effectiveness and how they are ranked against other different styles. So all of these utilized methods, there's going to be 7 of them. The first being character, the second being culture, the third being wealth, the fourth being miscellaneous, the fifth being humor, the sixth being complementary, and the 7th being sex relief. These are ranked in the order of effectiveness due to the article. And so I just want to get a quick poll. Which do y'all want to hear about?
Humor.
Well, it sucks that I'm not a magician because I only play. So let's take some time to set the scene real quick, as used in the article. A dark bus stop at night. You're waiting, and all of a sudden, 2 drunk guys appear, and they get closer, and all of a sudden, you tend to get a little scared. And here comes the big, strong guy who's here to save the day. So he goes up to the guys and says, "Excuse me, I think this lady was here first." And they say, "What's it to you?" So they get obviously very defensive and eventually just decide to leave rather than starting a fight at a bus stop. And the guy goes up to the girl and says, "Sorry those guys bothered you. I'm James, by the way." And obviously, he gets the girl, as character was the most effective style of pickup line used in the article. So we're going to talk about a little bit more of the personal experiences. Taya talked about Reddit, obviously the greatest place for finding out about people's personal experiences. So for all the guys, don't you want to use a pickup line that's actually effective? And for all of the girls, don't you want to hear a pickup line that's actually effective? So example number 1, we're going to go with the poetry example. This is by the Reddit user named ComfyCurves03. Roses are red, violets are blue. I have the most fun when I'm with you. Obviously it rhymes, as it is a poetry style example. So a couple pros here. Obviously it sounds scholarly because you're rhyming, and who doesn't want to hear a nice little rhyme? It's really in-depth because you had to come up with a rhyme. And it's very thought-provoking because you might not realize it's a rhyme, and then you have to think about it. But obviously where there's pros, there's obviously some cons. So this really lacks uniquity because I think everyone in here has probably heard that rhyme at least some point in their life. It's a little hard to engage because what are you going to do? Walk up to someone and say, "Oh, you want to hear a poem I wrote?" Like that. That's just not a good idea. And then it can sound a little clingy as you're talking about only wanting to be with them, and just who wants that? So going into example number 2, relating to pop culture. Are you a highway? And I'm not going to finish this because it's a little provocative. So obviously we've got some pros. It's a little current because you got to know the song. It's quippy as it's pretty quick to pick up on. And it's funny as you can relate to the words in it and make a pun. But obviously now we have some pretty evident cons. So it can be a little perverted, especially when delivered in this way. There can be a language barrier because someone may not understand it. And using this language barrier, there's another dictionary.com slang dictionary article about online versus inline, which talks about the different ways that people might not know different slang terms depending on what they were raised in and how they've grown up. These different slang terms relate to the area which you live in and what you've grown up in a household like. Because growing up in the South, I use the word y'all way more than I should, and other people might use you guys. And for the last one, it's obviously age-oriented. Because if you haven't seen Cars in a while, you might not know the song. So then we talk about another example. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the personal example. So this is the flirtatious example, which I have gone through and documented a success and a fail through some wonderful Snapchat conversations. So let's take the time to just get through this. No line, complete thing. Let's see what happens when you actually use one. And now what is that? A 10-minute left on it? Like, who does that? And here comes the line, sorry for the late response, I got lost in your arms. And see how much more successful this is. So you use that line, and you actually come out on top with the date. So now we're going to go into the great success. So we're going to go through the pros and cons as we did earlier. Going through the pros, it's very smooth, sincere, and complimentary, as you're fitting in a compliment while also trying to get the line in. And for cons, there's literally none. Because who could think of something wrong with that wonderful pickup line? So the University of Kansas did a research project which supported the role of pickup lines in communication with mating initiation. So you don't want to be nervous when using one of these lines. Being able to come up with success comes off with your mannerisms as well as how you execute the line. I think for all the guys in here, if you've tried using one of these before, it might have gotten a little nerve-wracking because you don't know if it's going to work. And for all of the girls, if you see some little tweety guy coming up like this and trying to give a really awful pickup line to you, it probably didn't go very well. So coming in at the end of the slide, or at the end of the presentation, I'm going to have a change.org petition about why guys should use more pickup lines as it gets the dates to be more effective and how people who don't use them should not even deserve a date in general. So then I'll come in at the end so you can take the time to copy it down into your phone and really sign it if you want to. So in conclusion, you want to be this guy. You want to be the guy who's confident and shows off himself in the best ways to get the date. And for all of the girls, I think you would rather this guy over someone else. Here's the change.org petition. You can take the time to copy it down if you'd like. And that is all I've got.